From LALATE headquarters in Santa Monica, this is Afternoons LALATE.
Good afternoon. Breaking news this afternoon on LALATE. The president rolls out video after video about your fourth stimulus package. But the question analyzed in this video is, why is there so little discussion about climate when that remains the big issue that's derailing bipartisanship and ultimately remains the big push to get you multiple stimulus checks? In this video, I analyze what the next week could unfold for you. As the press secretary says, next week's a lot about climate. So is next week a big week for reconciliation as well? I'll analyze for you what's going on the fourth stimulus package and why the president needs to push for reconciliation now rather than later. I'll go over the economic details that hit today. Big news, great news. Retail sales through the roof. Wall Street through the roof. Also, unemployment dropping to its lowest level since the pandemic started. All incredible great news. It's signaling now is the time to get fourth stimulus to the Congress. And I'll analyze for you whether the president's staying on message or going off message. This is a big recording, and I'm so excited for you to join me on Afternoons LALATE, starting right now. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Afternoons LALATE, and I'm so excited you're joining me on a big Afternoons broadcast. This is our double dose of Afternoons LALATE. If you joined me earlier today on Afternoons, thank you for joining me. Boy, today Nancy Pelosi brought back the Temple of Doom in full force. If you missed it, someone in her party proposed something for increasing the number of Supreme Court seats, and she said, "Don't come back to me with that. I don't want to see that." I will not be covering Supreme Court seats in this recording, but I just wanted to have you enjoy that laugh that "don't come back to me unless you have $12 ice cream" she's in full force once again. Viewers have asked me, where have I haven't heard from Temple Doom lately. Oh, today you did. Today you did. Even Sirloin almost tipped over today on the news. Either that or someone tipped him over. So thank you for joining me on a big Afternoons broadcast. In this recording, I'll go over the surprising details from the White House, as next week is a big climate week. Yeah, climate week. So what does that mean for your fourth stimulus check, those monthly stimulus checks? It can only be good, right? I'll analyze that in this recording. If you've not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Also like this video, and if you've not become a member, consider becoming a member. Let's get right to it. Today saw incredible economic numbers, which you've been seeing detailed throughout the day's recordings. Job numbers lowest new unemployment claims since the start of the pandemic. Continuing unemployment claims dropping by 1 million in just 1 week. Wow, that is a huge turnaround. And then retail sales for the month of March, before you got that third stimulus check, no less. This is based upon second stimulus check spending. March retail sales jumped enormously through the roof after February went actually down. So you would assume with those types of numbers, the presidents would just push the bill to reconciliation and wouldn't wait a second. Well, in this video, I'm going to analyze for you why the president is staying on one message and whether that message is getting lost. Today, the president released not one, but continued to release video after video or continue to push for videos about infrastructure, how beautiful infrastructure is. And the question is, why? No one has a problem with infrastructure. Everyone wants to give infrastructure. And no less than 2.5 weeks ago, the Republicans said their position on the matter. We love infrastructure, the Republicans said. We'll give you infrastructure. Your bill is about $3 billion approximately. We'll give you infrastructure, but it ain't $3 billion, $3 trillion under the bill. It's literally a couple $100 billion. And they said the rest of the bill has nothing to do with infrastructure. It has to do with climate. And with that, they said they're not going to do the bill ever. The president was asked 2 days ago whether he is having faux negotiations with the Republicans to make it look like he's trying to be bipartisan only to default to reconciliation, or whether he's actually having meaningful negotiations. The videos debuted on this channel showed who the president was meeting with, and he wasn't meeting with 20 or 30 or 40 members of the Republican Party. He was meeting with one or two or three at a time at best. So these aren't broad stroke negotiations. In fact, the president was asked, where would he modify the situation? Ironically, what you have seen on this channel since last year is often the news reporters don't ask the question you're wondering, which is the following. The Republicans have told you, Mr. President, they don't want to do climate, so you're willing to take climate out? No reporters ask that question. Rather, they ask questions about taxes. The president's proposal under the fourth stimulus package has 3 provisions, and then the Democrats want to put other provisions on top of that. They want to give you those big stimulus checks. Let's look at those monthly stimulus checks so we understand the big moolah at hand. First of all, the issue is how quickly and how soon. Let's look at this money. Democratic senators and Democratic House members want to give you monthly stimulus checks. If you're looking at the senators, they want to pay you $2,000 a month or $1,400 a month over 6 months. My goodness, look at this incredible, huge sum of money. $8,400 per person or $12,000 per person. This is if you're on SSI or SSDI or Social Security or railroad benefits or a veteran, or if you make less than $75,000, or you're a household of 4. Everyone gets this. Again, if you make less than $75,000, you get this. If you're a household of 4 or less, you get this. If you're on SSI or SSDI, Social Security or railroad benefits, you get this. And this amount we're looking at on this graphic is a single individual check, not the full household. Let's look back at that graphic. There you go. So if there's a household of 4, you double this. If the married couple, you double this. Excuse me, a household of 4. That was great math, wasn't it? A household of 4, you don't double it, you times it by 4. That's Larry Kudlow math. There you go. And if a married couple, you double it. This is huge, huge sums of money. Here's what you need to know, is that this would be put in there by Congress, not by the president. The House wants you to have a stimulus check for 1 year after the pandemic. So they want you to have a stimulus check every month through the pandemic and then 1 year after the pandemic. House members just want to give you stimulus checks to December. The House members at issue are progressives. They're junior members of Congress. The senators are senior members of Congress. And the House members want to pay you $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter. But a lot of months, folks, a lot of months. We're talking about 16 months, 18 months. So if it's $1,000 a month, that's $18,000 or $19,000 or $20,000. They want to do pandemic plus 12 months. Enormous sums of money, $20,000, $18,000, $16,000. But if it's the senators, it's a little bit less. So the senators, if it's $1,400 a month, it's $8,400. Or if it's $2,000 a month, it's $12,000. Here's one thing I've never detailed with you. I'll explain to you right now. House members want to pay you stimulus checks on a longer horizon. So pandemic plus 12 months. So 16 months of checks, 18 months of checks, 20 months of checks. They want to pay you more months of checks. The senators want to pay you less months of checks, but more money per check. So it depends on how you look at the situation. Ultimately, you have your own opinion about the situation. Would you rather get more money up front or smaller amounts of money over a longer period of time? It just depends on the person. Some people rather get larger sums of money up front and put it in the bank and get their return on their investment. A new report from the Federal Reserve released yesterday showed that for the first stimulus check and the third stimulus check, that you generally save about 30% of the check. Then know that the economics and the numbers show no one is spending 100% of the check. You're either spending 30% or 40% or 50%, but no one spends the whole check. So obviously saving that money that may be bigger from the senators first may help you. So that's how it works. The president's not going to write the bill. The Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, she's going to write the bill. Subcommittee is going to write the bill. And then if they put those monthly stimulus checks in there, those House members, it goes to the Senate. Then the senators modify it. Maybe they shorten the time and increase the amount of check. But ultimately, they're the ones putting the stimulus checks in there, not the president and not the Republicans. So why would the president belabor this bill any longer and not put it to recon right away? There are three parts to the bill for the president's purpose, of which there is no bill yet, at least for the proposal. The first one is infrastructure. The second one is climate. And the third one is taxes. Well, guess what? The second and third doesn't pass any Republican support. Republicans said, we're not doing climate. So you would assume, if you were the president of the United States and you're listening to the Republicans saying, we're not doing a penny for climate, you would just get reconciliation ready. So what do you think the president's doing? Drop into the live chat right now what you think the president's doing. Do you think he's just trying to present it as though he's really trying to do bipartisanship, but is really getting ready for recon? Or is he really actually trying to do bipartisanship? If you look at the videos that were released by the president over the last 48 hours, it starts to look like he's pushing a little bit too hard the optics of the situation. He's trying a little bit too hard to make it look like it's bipartisanship. And this is after Leader Schumer, 2 weeks ago, applied to the parliamentarian to get an extra recon. Remember, Leader Schumer is the person with Speaker Pelosi who gets your stimulus checks out the door. They are the people who get your stimulus checks out the door and any other agenda that they want to get done. Under the third stimulus package, Leader Schumer quietly plotted ahead of time to get $10,200 of unemployment tax-free under 2020. Plotted ahead of time to have student loan debt forgiveness tax-free if it is forgiven, and plotted ahead of time other amendments that have nothing to do with the president's agenda. It's the Democratic congressional leaders' agenda. So if Leader Schumer got that massive win with the reconciliation, that additional reconciliation win with the parliamentarian last week, then why not use it? Even simpler, why even ask for it if you're not going to use it? And is it just to prepare for the inevitable? Or are we at the inevitable already? A new video was released by the White House today. And once again, it talks about how we need to get this bill done. No one has a problem with the bill. No one has a problem with infrastructure. The question is, why is it not recon? Let's listen into this video and see where recon really comes into the discussion for monthly stimulus.
The biggest investment in America since World War II. My name's Jennifer Granholm. I am head of the Federal Department of Energy, and I want to address some of the myths that are out there about the American Jobs Plan.
Infrastructure is only roads, bridges, and highways.
No way. It's roads, it's bridges, it's highways, but it's also airports, seaports, trains, and broadband, of course. Infrastructure is so broad, and it creates all kinds of jobs in all pockets of America.
Okay, let's just pause it right there. This is obviously where we have to ask, why is this video being made? So you heard a person off camera said, infrastructure is this. Okay, did the person off camera say, is climate infrastructure? The Republicans don't think it is. Republicans say they don't want to do the bill because climate is not infrastructure. Notice they ask her infrastructure. Is bridges infrastructure? Yeah. Is copper wires underneath the ground so you have internet infrastructure? Of course it is. Clean water is infrastructure. Yeah, we got it. But is climate infrastructure? They didn't ask her that question. Let's see if maybe the question's coming up. Maybe they do ask her about climate, which is why the bill needs to go by reconciliation. Let's continue to listen.
We have to choose between improving the economy and addressing climate change.
We can do both. There is a $23 trillion global market for the products that are going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions out there. Who's going to be making those products? Where are they going to go? Well, we could do nothing, or we could say, we as a country are going to corner the market on a number of these products to put our people to work.
Clean energy will make bills go up for middle-class Americans.
That is such a myth. The clean energy solutions, like energy efficiency in appliances, save consumers massive amounts of money. The average family saves about $320 a year just by installing energy-efficient appliances. That, to me, is the best kind of savings. If you want to learn more about this amazing American Jobs Plan, go to whitehouse.gov/American Jobs Plan.
Now, if you listen to that video, she does talk about climate, but not particularly clear what's going on in the video. In the second half of the video, she says energy efficient appliances are good for the environment. That's okay. Yeah, I got that. What does that have to do with an infrastructure bill? This is sort of where the optics go off that are not clear. Again, the president has not made clear why climate needs to be in an infrastructure bill. And this is why the Republicans have pushed back and say, we're not going to do it because infrastructure is not climate. And here the video was about fixing about appliances being good. We got appliances being good. What does that have to do with infrastructure, highways and roads? Now, the President of the United States, he also released a video 2 days ago. And this video does mention climate just for a second. But the entirety of the video is talking about roads and bridges and aerospace and the interstate highway. And if you blink, you may not hear the word climate. Let's listen to how the president describes climate in his video.
By thinking big, doing it together. We built the interstate highway system. We went to the moon. But then we stopped. Since the 1980s, public domestic investment has fallen substantially. What do we have to show for it? Crumbling bridges and roads, millions of Americans without safe drinking water, and an internet barely available to the huge swath of the country. Last week, I released the American Jobs Plan, and I want to talk about it for a few minutes with you.
The issue at hand, rather than play the whole video, which you've seen before on this channel, is he starts with the problem, which is obviously how you would do a video like this. This is the problem. The bridges are crumbling, the internet's not available. That's infrastructure again. Where's the problem with the climate? And where are we fixing the climate? And what is wrong with the climate? And what do we have to do about the climate? Throughout the scope of the videos the president has released over the last 2 weeks, whether it's the individual video like you just saw from the Energy Secretary, or the president's video, or the group video that was released about 4 days ago, they talk about how infrastructure needs to be fixed because infrastructure is crumbling, but they never explain what's wrong with climate and why climate needs to be fixed and why the money to raise taxes has to be used to fix climate. Not explained at all. And this is ultimately part of the reason why the bill has to go by reconciliation. If you've been with me for a while, you've often seen where bills don't have an explanation to it. And while it's not my job to tell you why this bill has no explanation for the climate, it's not being certainly explained in any of the videos. Last year, under the 2020 HEROES Act, Nancy Pelosi had provisions in a stimulus package for COVID to provide salary raises for Department of Treasury, salary raises for Department of Corporations, and Department of Copyrights. Remember that one? And we wondered, what do all these salary raises have to do with COVID? She also wanted to build a new building. It's very commonplace that people add on what one would say pork into a bill that doesn't belong under the scope of what the bill is. The bill's called one thing, and suddenly you're sliding things in. Ironically, when it comes to this bill, it's the climate that gives you the stimulus check. Stimulus checks have nothing to do with infrastructure either. But guess who wants to give you the stimulus checks? The Democratic Congress. Here's what's important for you to understand, because it seems very unusual on its face, but it's not. The President of the United States is the executive branch. He's the head executive of the country. He doesn't write the bills. He doesn't legislate. He doesn't vote on the bills. He proposes what to be done. And ultimately, it goes to Congress. When Congress gets it, they add stuff in, and often they add pork. Often they add things that is not what the topic of the bill actually says. Remembering the continuing resolution of last year, the December CR? That's a budget bill. It's not supposed to be about stimulus checks. We came up, I told you to push, and together as a family we push to put stimulus checks into a budget bill. Never done before. It got done. It just fit in there. This time, it's the same idea. Stimulus checks sliding into an infrastructure bill when stimulus checks have nothing to do with infrastructure bill, just like it has nothing to do with a continuing resolution, a budget bill from last fall. It's important for you to understand this because some people may say, I don't hear the president talk about stimulus checks. I don't hear the president proposing stimulus checks because ultimately he's not the one writing the bill. What he's doing is he's presenting to the Speaker of the House a series of items he wants to do: climate, roads, bridges, infrastructure, water. And she gets it. And she may very well put in there a salary raise for the Department of Copyrights, or a salary raise for the Department of Treasury, or $10 million for a foreign country, which became a very big topic of discussion in December. You remember that one. She may slide in other things like that, and it often is the case. Under the third stimulus package, if you don't remember, there was a lot of other things that were slid in there that had nothing to do with stimulus. This for that college and this for that college. It wasn't for you, it was for colleges. And so that's how stimulus check slides into this one. So you may wonder with me, why wait? Why wait any longer? And why, in a way, talk about the front of the business, the infrastructure, the road and the bridges, not talk about the back of the business? Ultimately, you have to decide. Drop in the comments what you think right now. Do you think the president is really just trying to say how good the bill is and set up it for reconciliation, or whether he's always wanted to do reconciliation? Here's a video that may help answer the question for you. Today, the press secretary was asked, next week is Earth Day week. Are you doing anything for climate? And is there climate in the fourth stimulus package? And what is the climate in there? Let's hear how robust the answer is when asked about climate.
Hi, Dan, thanks. I wanted to go back to the infrastructure plan,
Sure.
and specifically the tax portion.
Okay.
What parts of that is the president flexible on? Are there parts of it that he would be open to negotiating about?
You mean in terms of the pay-fors? Well, the president is quite open to alternate proposals to paying for his package. His most important focus here, or his line in the sand, is the vital imperative of investing in infrastructure and modernizing our infrastructure, creating jobs for the American people. He believes that should be paid for.
See, in that exchange, there was no mention, again, about climate. It was jobs and infrastructure. Let's hear more.
Proposed a way to do that. If others have alternatives to that, he's quite open to a range of options.
And one on climate, I know the summit is next week.
Yep.
And going back to one of the early executive orders that the president signed on climate change, there was a line in there about creating a green procurement plan for the federal government where agencies would consider climate in their spending decisions. He set a deadline for the end of April on that. Do you know what the status is and when we would expect to see it?
I expect, for those of you who are excited about climate, we will have a lot more to say next week. And I will see, as I promised to Jeff, if there's anything we can preview by tomorrow. But it will be a busy week or two on the climate front, but I'm just not going to get ahead of any announcements.
Thank you.
Again, not very responsive about climate. Ironically, while you don't hear the energy secretary really explaining climate, you don't hear the president talking about climate, and you have the press secretary not answering questions about climate, climate's your friend. Why? Because climate's what gets you a stimulus check. Climate is what gets you a fourth monthly stimulus check. Why? It's sort of like that bad bouncer at the front of the casino. You go to the casino, you love the casino, you adore the ice cream and the yogurt and the milk, but that bouncer at the front door is just so rude, it just sort of turns you off. And sometimes I don't want to go to the casino because I don't want to see that bouncer. Well, in this case, climate is the bouncer at the casino. The bouncer at the casino is causing you not to go to the casino. Well, the climate in the fourth stimulus package is causing the Republicans not to come to the table. They're not coming to the table, and they'll never come to the table. They made it very clear. Line in the sand 2 weeks ago, Mitch McConnell, or whether you look at the number one member of the transportation team from the leading Republican on transportation, said very clearly, Roy Blount, I'm from Missouri, we're not doing climate. We will do infrastructure. It does not cost this price tag. We're not doing climate. Well, That means we're going by reconciliation. We're going by reconciliation. And ultimately, you want that reconciliation to start right away. Today, we had incredible economic news that came in, and the faster this economic news keeps on coming in, the faster you want this bill to a law. The economic news started with big numbers across the board with first, let's look at retail sales, and then we'll go to unemployment. It was just jaw-dropping. First, we had the new unemployment numbers that came in, and they were just mind-blowing. 576,000 new unemployment claims. It's the lowest number we have seen since this pandemic started. We fell 200,000 jobless claims, new jobless claims in 1 week. I have never reported a number in the 500,000 range. Every number I've ever reported on this channel was 700 to 1 million per week. 576 is the lowest number since March of 2020 for new jobless claims announced this morning. Continuing unemployment claims came in at its lowest level we have seen in ages. It dropped 1 million in 1 week to 16.9. These are absolutely incredibly strong, booming numbers. California, which saw a surge of unemployment claims last week, fell nearly 100,000 this last week. Virginia down 23,000. Texas down. Across the board. And then retail sales. My goodness. These numbers are just shockingly strong. February, we saw a drop of retail sales by 2.7% as Americans spent that $600 second stimulus check in February. These numbers for March are not the third stimulus check because people had still not gotten it. These numbers are the second stimulus check. And we went from February losing 3% in retail sales to growing 10%. It shows that we can't gauge this economy. It's too robust, and it's too hard to see. This is even as COVID is growing 8% week to week and 71,000 new daily claims, the worst since last year. And today we saw the impact on this news. All tech rallied up about 3 to 5%, and meantime, crypto went up about 1 to 4%, whether you're looking at Ethereum or Bitcoin. Across the board, the numbers are strong, and so this is what you need to know as you go into evening's LA. First, monthly stimulus checks, yes. Who's going to give it to you? Not the president. He's not writing the bill. Not the Republicans. They don't want to give it to you. Who's going to give it to you? The House members and the Senate members. When the bill is written up. What is the difference? The difference is if you're supporting the House members, you get a check over a longer horizon, ultimately more money, because it could be 18 months of checks, versus the senators, which will give you about 6 months of checks, but bigger money up front. So if you like more money up front so you can keep it in the bank and get the investment value of it, you might like the senator's proposal. But if you like a smaller amount over a longer time, which ultimately would give you a bigger sum of money, you may like the House members' proposals. Ultimately, you want the House members' proposal to get in there, if it can, so that the senators can modify it, rather than just have the senators start with nothing and just do their own. And that's to start. Meantime, we had great economic news data today that showed that retail sales is spurred by stimulus checks. Remember, people don't spend their full stimulus checks, the Federal Reserve said 2 days ago. They spend about 30, 40, 50% of the stimulus check. They keep the rest in their savings account. So even with that, we showed the great impact that a stimulus check shows. Let's go back to that big money again under fourth stimulus and how we need to push Purple Power for this big money. Who gets it? If you make less than $75,000 in your household, of 4 or less, or if you're on SSI or SSDI, you get this money. And here is the money. It is $2,000. If it's $2,000, it's $12,000 for a single individual. And if it's $1,400 a month, it is $8,400 over 6 months. This is the biggest single payday that any viewer of this channel has ever seen. Meantime, if you need help with rent, utilities, food, internet, mortgage assistance, and utility bills or anything like that, or SNAP, reach out to the volunteers. They're there to help. Also, the $1,700 of financial aid now available at your colleges and universities. Reach out to them. The third stimulus checks, more landing in the mail today, and there may be another round of stimulus checks still coming. I'll be going over more about that tonight on Evenings LA. Join me next on Evenings LA, that show you love and I love to interact with you. I'll be in the live chat like I am right now. Say hi if you see me in the live chat. Here is today's programming schedule for LA Late. Evenings LA returns in 2 hours from now. And then 2 hours after Evenings LA is our new show, Late Night, LA Late Night, which is at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we are watching Afternoons LA now. 2 hours from now is Evenings LA, and 2 hours after that is LA Late Night. Very, very easy to remember. Just every 2 hours is a new show. And tonight on Evenings LA, you see the inside of this. My goodness. This is a new video, a new image just released minutes ago of the first car of its kind. It's electric. It could change the EV market. And how big is that flat screen? Yes, no one has ever seen anything like it. And you will see it for the first time tonight on Evenings LA. So you don't want to miss that recording. And I have big news about your fourth stimulus. If you have not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Also, like this video. Let's try to do 3,000 likes. And if you've not become a member, consider becoming a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Calcino, VIP. Get that $12 ice cream ready, because tonight's Evenings LA may have some guest stars. Ooh, who do you think is going to move on over? Join me tonight on Evenings LA, followed by LA Late Night, where those special guests may make an appearance. Stay informed, stay focused, and stay LA for more.